Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Prince A-Tone Bishop, and
Machie Jones.
and this is another episode of TourNation TalkBack. Now, in today's episode, we have artists who will be performing on January 5th, and they are here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Saskia Mount Zion,
Thank you.
and then we also have Compose,
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here.
and then we also have Marcus Webb, ladies and gentlemen.
In the house.
Hi, Saskia.
Hi, Machie.
So I hear you play an instrument.
I do. I play many instruments. My main instrument in the band is guitar. So I play the rhythm guitar and sing lead. But I also play a little keyboard and bass and percussion, and I could hold a beat on the drums too.
You have an album or something coming out as
I
well?
do have an album that was released recently. It's called Divinity, and it's under Saskia Mount Zion. So you can find it on iTunes.
Awesome. And Compose,
Hello there.
how are you? You actually have an EP coming out, and then do you have something that's out already?
I do. I have my single titled Nightingale. It is available on Amazon, iTunes, Spotify, pretty much anywhere you can download music, it's available.
Awesome. And then we have Marcus Webb, who, ladies and gentlemen, Marcus Webb, I knew him back in the day. I was when I first started doing poetry. We knew Marcus as Life, but Marcus is now publicly. He's officially known, Marcus Webb. Make sure you go look up this guy. Can you tell us, Marcus, Mr. Webb, what you have going on right now?
As of right now, I have a book titled An Array of Emotions that you can find in Barnes & Nobles, Amazon.com, Book of Millions. And I also have a play coming out in March titled The Ultimate Sacrifice. And it's about how 3 generations of black females from one family struggle with prostitution and breaking the generational curse.
Awesome. So definitely, we have some wonderful artists here, and they're not they do it for the love of it, but these are individuals who actually have product that you can go out, you can go find it online, even you can go to Barnes and Nobles, and so you got to give respect to these individuals for the simple fact they didn't just sit around talking about what they wanted to do. They actually took the necessary steps. I actually wish I had Marcus. I wish I had your connections, so I got a couple of things I would like to put in Barnes and Noble. I probably have to finish them first, but when I get there, definitely I'll be trying to talk to you about your connections as well.
So in our last segment, me and Prince A-Tone was talking about the art of commitment. And I was speaking on being self-committed and being a person who felt the need to walk tunnel vision to get to my goals. Like I didn't let anyone or anything stop me from getting to my goals, which pretty much held me back in relationships with people, in business or whatever. Well, I won't necessarily say business. Held me back with people because I blocked them out. And so Prince A-Tone interjected and said that, self-love also represents community and having connections with people and allowing people to come in and, do their thing so you can get to the next level. Marcus Webb, what do you think about that?
I think that commitment, if you can't be committed to yourself, you can't be committed to anyone else. If you have a goal and you cannot be committed to completing the most simplistic goal, you would not complete a major goal. See, all our goals are compilations of, if we take small little goals and we complete small little goals, one day we'll turn around, we'll see a big mountain. Because it's all broken down, in a minute form. And so that's how we approach life. That's how I approach life. I don't approach writing a play, I want to write 58 pages or 100 pages. I want to write one sentence, one word. It all starts with a word. But if you can commit to yourself, you won't have no problem being committed to somebody else. But a person who doesn't know how to master themselves, what they eat, think, breathe, listen to, then that person is being mastered by somebody else. So commitment starts with the love of self first. Thank you.
I agree.
There's definitely one perspective. And, I like that perspective. And one of the things I do is I try to understand that there are many perspectives, and a lot of times what we do, we allow our different perspectives to separate us rather than see how our different perspectives actually can be the glue to bring us all together as well. So anything that Denise or Saskia would like to add to what Marcus is saying there?
I actually agree with what Marcus was talking about, and I also can relate to Machie with being so focused where everyone else is just blocked out. I think we've all had moments like that where it's just, I know what I have to do, I know I got to get it done, and I can't afford to be distracted right now. And I think it's most difficult to find balance in life. That's normally the great, problem for people in general, is just finding balance, because we're either doing too much on the right or we're doing too much on the left. And if you can find that balance, that's where the challenge is coming in. So it's very important to get things done and not look at it so much like he was saying, don't worry about the 100 pages. Just worry about that one word first. I've come across a lot of people who they focus on the whole project as a whole, and they become overwhelmed because they feel like this can't be done now because it's so much that has to be done. But if you break it down in just small segments and do those small segments, it'll start to balance out. And then to keep from losing your mind, losing your hair, losing your sanity, being around being around people will really help you to remember, like, have some fun. Like, there's a whole world out here. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, and you might be in the basement working on an album and you didn't see the light of day. Now you emerge looking homeless because, you got a 5 o'clock shadow going if you're a man, or your hair is just all over the place for a woman because we've just been so wrapped up in what we're doing. And so having that balance is important. All work and no play isn't good, and of course no play and all play and no work isn't good either. So to me, it's about balance.
I love the points that you guys are making. I love the taking it one day at a time, and I think commitment is about that regularity. I have a regular spiritual practice that I do. I have a regular yoga practice that I do. I have a commitment to those things which are for myself, which in effect end up being for everyone else, because when I am the best me, then I can share that with the community and uplift others. So I think, it is a balance. It is a balance, the commitment between your commitment to yourself and your commitment to the community. And since we're all actually interconnected, the happier you are, the happier you can radiate that vibration and affect more people, and in effect, that ends up being what we really want, is to uplift and unite, So I think that's important, and I think that the main commitment is that we have to always stay connected is to the higher power, right? So to me, that's the number one commitment. And then from that, you get the information like, oh, I need to work on self. Oh, I need to volunteer. I need to be more in the community. Like you find every day it's a little different. Or we go through phases where I need to spend 2 months just meditating and focusing on myself. And is that selfish? No, because if I don't, I could get sick and die, right? So, then I will be of no use to anyone, right? So, so we need to take what we learn, take our improvement, and share it with people, right?
Most definitely. And what Prince Aton was saying, at this point in my life, I agree with it. At this point, like, also it relates to what Marcus was saying. I did those things, I took those steps, and now I'm in a position where it's like, let people come in, to get to that next level. So
One thing, in the word commitment exists the word sacrifice. If the people that's around you don't have goals, then you have to sacrifice those people as far as not communicating with them in order to achieve your goal. They want you to go to the club, but you want to go to the studio. They want you to go hang out, but you want to write songs. So the commitment, so if the greater the goal, the greater the commitment, and the greater the sacrifice. So if you're not willing to do either or, then you shouldn't be. Then you should be in your position as an artist, or your position as an artist, or your position as an artist, because commitment and sacrifice is all a part of what we do.
I definitely agree with you when you talk about, you want to do one thing, your friends might want to do another. Now, I grew up, of course, I can say I was very selfish or self-centered, and it really wasn't doing me any good. I mean, I was just maturing anyway, going through life, figuring out, who I was. And one of the things that I recently just did about a month ago was I had realized that I've spent the last 30 years of my life finding out who I am in community, or who I am in ministry, who I am in business, all of these things. And I never really I never took the opportunity to really look at myself and just figure out who am I outside of those things. So about a month ago, I had the opportunity to realize, things about me. Okay, outside of ministry, who am I? And that's another conversation. But but in my journey, I still believe that a person ought to be committed first to their community. And for me, growing up in a Christian church, although most of the Christians I hung around didn't follow the same principles, didn't follow all of the principles or whatever, I still, that there's a scripture that says, seek ye first the kingdom and all its righteousness and all these things shall be added unto you. That part has always stuck with me, and I think regardless of what your belief is, or what your practice may be, I think there's always this sense of responsibility, or there's some type of law or principle that's out there that you should have a sense of responsibility, to community.
Right.
And and so I was stuck on that, you know what I mean? And I'm still stuck on that. I mean, I'm never going to change. I'm always going to be this I'm always going to attempt to be as selfless as possible, to give to those who I can. Now, I have run into trouble with that as far as needing those days where it's like, okay, now I got to go. I need some time to myself. And it's hard when there's really nobody else to pour into you, you know what I mean? And you pouring into other people. So I think that I think my question is, well, how do you find that balance? Would the balance come from, if you're being a giver, to ensure that you're giving to the right people, you know what I'm saying, or the right group of people, or what? Go ahead.
Sometimes picking someone up can also pull you down. So you have to. So there are times in your life where you have to let go and allow that person to pick themselves up. We have to, and you're 30 years old, you have yet to discover all of you. There are more facets of you that by 40, you're like, wow, I didn't know this about me, that about me. Because we're still trying to master and discover thyself. And that's when the Bible talks about, saying know thyself. You're knowing you, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I was going to say this here. When Moses went into the mountains to talk to God, and he came back with the 10 Commandments, he saw that the people stopped worshiping other gods. The children of Israel stopped worshiping other gods, right? But he had a commitment and a goal. He had the 10 Commandments. So when he came back, he brought them the 10 Commandments, and those 10 Commandments is what we use now today, right? Right? Same thing with commitment. You have to go, sometimes you have to take your time, your commitment to God, your mission, and then let on whatever you produce. It can be water, it can be the laws for the people that you can help. You can't commit with somebody if you have nothing to provide to them. That's my fault.
If I might, it reminds me of this concept of having one hand on your heart and one hand out to others. And you have to give to yourself before you can give to others. So, and that's the order it has to go. Otherwise, you have nothing to give, right? Yeah.
And it's kind of the mentality of when you're on a plane, you put the mask on yourself first, and then you can have the oxygen you need to put the mask on somebody else. And to address the need for, like you were saying, figuring out how do you find that balance between community and self. Personally, from my experience, it was for me creating boundaries, because especially if you consider yourself to be a Christ follower, within that religious organization, we always look at giving and everything. And so as a believer, you'll have times where you're constantly giving. And like you were saying, where there's nobody pouring back into you. So now you're depleted. Now you're angry. And now, people are saying, what's with the attitude? Well, it's because you've given so much away and nobody even thought to see what you might need. And, now you're stuck in a situation where you don't have the resources that you need to continue to do what you do. And so boundaries is important. You have to know that as a believer, or whatever that you decide to believe in, you have to at least know that giving something that you don't have won't happen. If I have a cup full of water and it used to be full, and everyone else had the little Dixie cups, and I had this huge, McDonald's supersized cup of water, and everyone's thirsty, I would say, okay, I have this cup of water, I'll just keep pouring. But at some point, I'm going to have to go back to either McDonald's or a faucet or a bubbler or whatever to get more water in order to continue to replenish. But
Go ahead, because I want, go ahead.
Right. The Bible, I'm not very good in quoting scriptures, but the Bible said, love without me, Peter, feed my sheep. But what if Peter doesn't have nothing to feed the sheep?
Right.
What good is a shepherd if he can't protect his flock? What good is a shepherd if he can't feed his flock? Therefore, the shepherd must acquire wisdom, knowledge, and understanding first before he can protect, feed the flock, the sheep, right? So the shepherd must be somewhat, he didn't say shepherds, shepherd, one individual, meaning that one individual had to be committed, to God first, to himself, and to the people that are the sheep, or the people that God, put him before. And with your ministry, you have to first acquire knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, and then you can actually feed the sheep. But if you ain't got none of that, if you can't commit to yourself, you can't take the time to study yourself or gather the food to feed the sheep, how can you actually feed them when you have nothing? I mean, so the sheep will starve to death, but you'll be, and wolves be just taking over your sheep. But go ahead.
Right. No, I mean, I really love what you just said, and even what Compose was just saying. When she was talking about, Dixie cups, and you done gave all of this to other people, and now you got to go back to basically wherever the source is, wherever you got this from. And then you were even talking about, and where you got to go get this wisdom, you got to go get this understanding. You got to know yourself. Now, no matter what the scenario is, no matter what people choose to do, I am an advocate for, still making the community, the community first, and not necessarily saying, go give everything you have to the community, but at least in your heart, let that be the objective. So even if you go, whatever journey you got to go on, let the objective be, so that I can go get back to my community, or so that I can do this for my community. And, like some people that I know, they and y'all have heard this a lot. I'm the type of person, I give to people all the time. I'm the type of person where I love people, and people misuse that. One of the conversations that me and Machie had in our last discussion was, guard your heart. And I brought up the point about guarding your heart, because if you're going to be a giver, then you're regardless, you're still going to run into those experiences where you're going to get hurt. People are going to misuse your trust. You're going to have some days where you're going to be empty. But then what I think what happens in our community is, even people who have the right heart, or people who seemingly have the right heart, they get that. I'm now complaining because I'm not getting it back. And I think, for me, my advice to anybody who's like that is, well, first of all, if you're really a giver, then should nothing and nobody change that. Nothing you experience should change that. If you're really a giver. If you're the type of person who loves unconditionally, I went through this with him and I loved him despite. If you're really an unconditional lover, then that means regardless of whatever the case was, you should still be able to operate in that love. But are you really an unconditional lover, or was it based on condition? Was it based on the expectancy that you were going to get something back? And I believe we got to get to a place where this is how I look at it for me. I am a distributor of love. I'm a distributor of all of these things. And most of the people who I've encountered until now, until I met some people who are also distributors, most of the people that I've encountered have been consumers. And I can't, if I say, and this is if you say this is who you are, you know, because everybody can't say that this is who they are. But if you say you are a lover, if you say that you are a giver, then you can't expect consumers to be able to replenish. You can't expect consumers to give you what you as a distributor can only get from a manufacturer. So you have to, so that's, you know, Saskia brought up being connected to a higher power. That's why, you know, I believe my connection is to God, and I honor him in everything that I'm doing. I'm even proud that that was even brought up in this conversation, because I have to, my source can't be the people who I'm giving it to. Like, yeah, I'll be blessed. I may find a community of people, whether they're artists, whether they're people who share the same beliefs as me, whatever the case may be. I might find some people, you know, who are givers just as I am, but I have to be prepared, and I have to know that, hey, I'm going to run into people who aren't going to be equipped to give this same thing to me. But somebody has to step up and be the example. But as you said, I think it does start with knowing who you are, you know, getting that wisdom, getting that understanding, because knowing, and sometimes we don't get it unless we go through the, I had to get it because I had to actually experience being hurt, being lied to, and stuff like that.
Yes.
So yeah, but ask not what, you know, what your community can do for you, you know.
What you can do.
What can you do for your
Johnny
community?
King. right. Just one scenario. I had a situation where I was going to a car wash around 10 o'clock at night when I got off of work, right? And another car was there with two young black individuals. Well, the car pulled up, and the other car put a hood on over his head, and I was about to get changed. Well, he had a pistol in his hand, and it appeared, and he was looking at me as if he was going to carjack me. Therefore, I got in my car, and I continued, and I took off. And I was very like, you know what? I'm not going to trust any black males with hoodies on, because it appears that they're trying to rob individual. This is around the Trayvon Martin situation. Well, I was on Capitol, and I saw a young black male in the middle of traffic with his car was out and wouldn't move, and he was stuck, and he had a hoodie on. Now, the guy within me was telling me, you know, you need to go back and help that young man, because nobody's going to help him unless you help him first. Therefore, I was like, oh man, this other guy just was about to rob me the other day. I go, God, I don't know about that. You know what I'm saying? It was like we got to sit there and talk about this. You need to call somebody else. Right. And, you know, God was like, no, I'm talking to you. You know what I'm saying? I want you to go back and help him. And so, with that being said, I parked my car. I ran over to where the young man was at on Capitol, and I stopped pushing this. I said, put the car in neutral, and I'm going to push you. And he said, okay. And when I stopped pushing him, an older man with a hoodie on his head said, hey, I'll be right over. And then another man who was walking down the street said, with a hoodie on his head, said, hey, I'll be right over. The next thing you know, I got like 5 different individuals, young black men, with hoodies on their head. Right? And we pushing the car, you know. And then God was like telling me that, now see, now what happened yesterday doesn't affect today. We have to overcome our fears, our hurts, our pain, because that's where our blessing lies. You know, and it was a blessing to see that. The moment was a blessing. You know, there was no financial gain, but the moment within itself was a blessing. And it allowed me to progress, and it allowed me to overcome my fears. Like, just because one woman or one individual or a group of individuals may treat you wrong doesn't mean the world is going to treat you wrong. But more importantly, it doesn't mean that God is not going to treat you wrong, because he will always be there, and he'll always be to help you overcome your fears. All right, Skip.
And I think that when you're giving and you're in the right spirit, it gives you back so much more. So I don't know that it's really about giving and being depleted. And I feel like if you're giving and you're feeling depleted, you're putting your energy in the wrong place, you know?
Yes.
Because to me, like, I actually play guitar and sing to little kids at the art museum on a monthly basis as well. And when I go there and I give, it's very selfish. I receive so much love back from these little kids. So is that selfish? I don't know. It's giving to the community, but you receive so much back that you know you're in line with spirit, you know? And I think that's a really important part of commitment as well.
See, and I love that example, and I think there's a big difference between working with some kids and and guys with hoodies. Making that balance. But what I will say,
It's a valid point. They're not gonna be too rough on me, and they're really not tough critics either.
No,
That-
I'll give you.
As a school teacher, I have to say they can be tough.
They can.
Yes, they will hurt your feelings.
The valid point
You
that
came across some
Saskia
good
made though was putting your energy in the right spots and receiving that blessing.
Before I do want to make this point when I think about the community and helping other people. I mean, why I say this in business, I'm getting to the point now where there's services that I can provide, but but I want to make sure just like in my personal relationships that I'm intentional with what I expect from the people who I'm building with. But then one of the things I have to realize as well is if I'm going to be intentional with what I expect, I also have to be very clear and intentional on what I have to offer. So that's where I'm at now to make sure that I don't get depleted. But there are situations where I feel like, where I'll give to someone or give to groups of people, whatever, because I understand that we live in a world where it's hard, to be able to do that, especially when you got responsibilities, you got a household, it don't make no sense to, it almost doesn't make sense to be helping, somebody else's house, your neighbor house. You're going to take some food over there, but then, you and your kids or you and your spouse haven't ate. You know what I'm saying? Of course, stuff like that doesn't make sense, and God has to, you got to have wisdom with that. But sometimes I do things just because there's a rebel in me, where I feel like, man, this world, this society, this government is not designed for us to be able to sacrifice and to give. So sometimes I do it just to kind of, spit in the government. Go ahead.
Help us overcome fear. The world is teaching us to be so afraid of so many people and so many things. You got ISIS, you got the shootings in South Carolina of the white supremacists, of the 9 church members. You have all these, all these robberies and things of that nature that people are afraid to give out of fear that some kind of pain is going to come back to them. Today, I was at a gas station, and this young man with this with a hood on his head again, he asked me, hey, sir, you got any change? And I said, no, I don't have any change. And I was like, and I was walking into the store, and he was walking. It was cold. I was like, I do got some change, right? And then I went and got the gas, and I came out, and I ran down the street, and I said, hey, young man, I said, come back, right? And I reached in my pocket, and I said, here go $2, right? And he said, God bless you, But it's all about overcoming fear, because fear can paralyze our blessings as individuals. When we are afraid to give, it doesn't hurt to give, and we shouldn't expect anything great. I mean, just breathing and waking up the next day is a great blessing. But go ahead.
So I used to be a person who would give and give and give, and I would feel like I wouldn't get anything in return. So one day I went to my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I just give, and I constantly give, and people don't do anything for me. And she told me, Machie, your blessings don't come from people. They come from God. And once I got that deep down in my spirit, life became a lot better.
No, I totally agree with that. I think that's what I was talking about. I was kind of hinting at that. It's actually when you receive back from giving immediately, it's such a reward. But that's not why we give.
Right.
Yeah, that is not why we give. Right. We give out of our duty to community, and maybe it's to get a paycheck. There are different reasons we give. For different reasons, out of, because of our word, because of the commitment that we've made to whatever we believe in, whatever we're prioritizing, of whatever charity we believe in. We're going to give to that, and they may say thank you, but yeah, maybe it's a homeless person on the street. We give to them, and they don't say thank you, but it doesn't matter. That's not why we gave, right? We did it for the Most High, and we did it for all of us, because we are all interconnected. Yeah.
Word.
So that's it for TourNation TalkBack. Please make sure you go online and look for Saskia Mount Zion's album that's out, Divinity, and also Compose, her single that's out, Nightingale. And then what's the name of the EP that's coming out?
Chameleon Love Music.
Chameleon Love Music. And then Marcus Webb. What's the name of your book again?
An Array of Emotions.
An Array of Emotions. definitely check those out. We hope to see you guys January 5th. Can't wait to see you. Love, peace, and talent. Have a good day.